we live, Grace?
We're live.
We're live. What's going on, everybody? Nate here with NuView Trust Company. And today is Wednesday. It's time for another Wednesday workshop with NuView Trust Company. We've got a very, very special guest for you guys. And we're going a little bit off the normal path. We talk so much about real estate and notes and all these other things. But one of the hottest investments right now, especially for people using retirement accounts, especially with what's going on out there in the world, is people are gravitating once again towards precious metals. And precious metals can be owned in your retirement account. And we've got an expert who's going to talk about precious metals as an industry, talk about the opportunities there. This is going to be education based, and I am really excited to get this started for you guys. So we're going to talk about the potentials of precious metals investing in your IRA, tax-free or tax-deferred, however you like it. I like tax-free, but let's just talk about NuView Trust Company for anybody who is new to the program. NuView Trust Company is a licensed and bonded trust company. We operate our services out of Longwood, Florida, but we have clients all over the country. We have about 15,000 clients and about $2 billion under management, but we manage self-directed IRAs. Self-directed IRAs have become increasingly popular as people are a little bit hesitant to invest in the stock market these days. The ups and downs, and I know it's been a good ride for a lot of us, but a lot of people like to take a little bit more control over their retirement investing and invest through what's called a self-directed IRA. Important that self-directed is not a type of IRA. So when you hear this term, it's used really loosely. It's not a type of IRA. It actually is just a marketing term. NuView Trust Company has the same IRAs or individual retirement accounts that you would find at a Fidelity or a Charles Schwab. The only thing that's different is not the IRAs. It's actually what the companies choose to hold as far as investments. Fidelity and Charles Schwab, they hold traditional investments because that's normally what they sell and that's what's in their comfort zone. So if you have an IRA with those guys, you're going to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, because that's their menu of investments. Most people don't realize that you can invest in things outside of those investments or those traditional investments and invest in alternative assets. Alternative assets spreads far and wide, and they include things like rental property, land, commercial property, apartment buildings, notes secured by property, investments into small startup companies, cryptocurrency, and even precious metals. When it comes to your IRA, the only investments you're not allowed to hold in an IRA anywhere is just life insurance contracts and collectibles. So when you hear this term self-directed, don't get confused. We have IRAs that are no different than an IRA somewhere else. You can have as many IRAs as you want. And that's one of the beautiful parts about having a self-directed IRA is you don't have to close your Fidelity accounts. You don't have to close your Charles Schwab accounts. You can keep both accounts and have an opportunity to really diversify your retirement portfolio. And when I say diversify, I'm not talking about high risk mutual funds, medium risk mutual funds, and low risk mutual funds. That's one asset type. Real diversification, if you talk to real wealth advisors, will tell you that it's good to have some alternative assets in your portfolio. Alternative assets can often add a little bit more tangibility to your assets. Think about a piece of real estate. A piece of real estate held in your IRA, it's a tangible asset. You can drive by it, you can touch it, you can feel it. The same thing can be said for gold, palladium, silver. So a lot of people who have retirement assets, they want some tangible assets in their portfolio so that they don't have big swings in the market where you see companies go out of business and you're left, with nothing. So self-directed IRAs give people real diversification. And I would urge everybody to at least understand the potential with it. But when you're talking about IRAs, just in general, the tax savings we get with IRAs is just tremendous. We actually have 7 types of accounts here at NuView that give you tax shelter and allow you to grow your buckets of money faster without Uncle Sam dipping his hand in the bucket each and every year. That's how our money is treated when we invest as an individual. So it's hard to get to retirement if you're just using your money as a tax-paying person, because you have to pay taxes every single year and you don't have as much capital to reinvest if you do it with all your money. IRAs, HSAs, 401ks are built to allow us as investors to save for retirement or save for other types of expenses in a completely tax-exempt status. So if you really can understand the power behind these IRAs and 401ks and these accounts that we have at NuView, you'll really end up saving yourself a lot of money in taxes. And the biggest thing about investing is not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And one powerful way to keep money is understanding these tax shelter plans. And I'm going to talk about these plans here in a second. But I think the real benefit to a self-directed IRA is just it allows you to invest in what you know best. If you're a real estate investor, are you going to make more returns investing your IRA in real estate or stocks? If you're a precious metals investor, are you going to make more money investing your IRA into precious metals versus just stocks? If you're a cryptocurrency investor, are you going to make more money for yourself investing in something that you understand and know versus just investing in the things people tell you to invest in? So you can put your knowledge and experience to the test by investing through a self-directed IRA, and you have a broader spectrum of investments to choose from. Now I'll talk about what are the most common investments we see at NuView. These are the plans first, though. Most people only have maybe one or two of these plans. I would probably say when I talk to clients on the phone or potential clients, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 accounts that almost anybody can set up if you're married and have kids. There's a lot of different accounts that give you tax shelter. When you look at these 7 accounts here, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, solo 401k, SEP IRA, simple IRA, even HSAs and ESAs, which are not IRAs, but they are tax sheltered plans. These are all buckets of money that you can invest and invest together or individually into alternative assets. You can invest in gold, you can invest in real estate. All of these plans, either at a bare minimum, grow tax deferred, meaning you can buy and sell an investment and buy and sell 100 investments, and you'll never pay taxes as you invest it. You may pay taxes when you take distributions, if it's a pre-tax account like a traditional IRA, for example. But if you are somebody that can take a small amount of money and make it larger, well, there's accounts on here that grow completely tax-free if you utilize them right. Something like the Roth IRA, where you pay no capital gains tax as you invest. And if you wait to take distributions until you're 59 and a half, all the distributions for the rest of your life are completely tax-free. You can also use that same concept with the HSA and the ESA and even the solo 401k that has a Roth component to it. I don't want to get too deep into this because we have videos on our YouTube page that go over these plans specifically. That's not the topic today. But when you look at these 7 plans, you want to think to yourself, how many of these plans can I have? Because these plans are not taxpayers, but I am. And you can partner these accounts together oftentimes to invest in the same things. And we'll talk about the investments that we see most commonly at NuView. So don't be afraid if you're a client or not a client, give us a call or shoot us an email and I'll give you our contact information here at the end and explore some of the other plans that you might not know that you qualify for, or you just want to expand your options. But if you just have 1 or 2 of these accounts, I would say you're probably, you could use a couple more there. What are the types of assets that people invest in these accounts through NuView? Well, these are some of the most common investments that we see here. Real estate. Obviously, there's a lot of people that understand real estate. They like to eliminate the capital gains tax on their investments by owning it in their IRA. How they find that real estate, they can find it through foreclosures. They can buy tax liens, apartments, just regular single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath rental properties or land. Believe it or not, that's only about 9% of our assets. We do a lot of real estate education because it's just a hot topic, but most of our clients actually do not invest directly into real estate with their IRAs. Most of our clients invest more passively, either through promissory notes. They use their IRA like a bank. If you know a real estate investor and you want to fund one of their real estate deals, well, you can use your IRA as the lender and own a promissory note secured by the real estate. Or you can invest into private entities. Private entities include things like LLCs, limited partnerships, joint ventures, trusts. And what these entities do could be a wide range of things. These entities could own real estate. These entities can be operating a business. These entities could hold gold or silver. So most of our clients invest actually in passive investments. And the most growing investments, I would say, at least currently, would be cryptocurrency and precious metals. We've had a lot of clients, new clients, contact us just recently and invest and want to set up an IRA to invest in precious metals. Market swings and things out there in the world will make precious metals a hotter commodity than maybe you normally think of it. But if you look at the trends, gold, silver, palladium is a great investment. And I'm not the expert in it, but we've got Chris Blasi, who's going to talk about precious metals here. And also he can touch on cryptocurrency as well, because his company actually handles both of these types of investments. Before I bring him on, though, I just want to go real quick. The steps of purchasing precious metals in an IRA go like this. And I wanted to make sure that I touch on this, because if you guys follow IRA news, if you're a nerd like me, there was a recent court case that actually targeted some people that were buying precious metals in their IRA the wrong way. And they got hit with some pretty steep penalties. So I want to make sure that you guys understand the right way to invest in precious metals or any alternative asset when you use a self-directed IRA. If you want to hold precious metals in a self-directed IRA, the first thing you have to do is just open a self-directed IRA. Contact us. There's the email right there. If you want to get an application, DocuSign, send it over to us with a copy of your ID. We get your IRA established or IRAs established within 24 hours. The next step is just fund the account. We can fund it with a transfer from one of your existing IRAs. We can fund it with a rollover from an old 401k, or you can just fund it with a contribution. And there's a lot of people that are making their contributions for 2021, because most of the plans allow you to make contributions up until your tax filing deadline, which is April 15th, or you can make contributions for both years. We have a lot of clients that make contributions for 21 and 22 because we are in 2022. So you can make contributions for both. Reason I'm saying that is it gives you more buying power if you want to fund, more purchases of gold, silver, or any alternative investment that we hold here at NuView. Very important. You have to make sure when you're drawing up a contract or when you find an investment, and this is where the self-directed comes from, is you have to find the investment. NuView has no investments to sell. We basically put the keys in your hand. You tell us what you want to invest in. But we need to make sure that everything as far as purchase contracts, it shows that your IRA is the buyer. You're still doing the same legwork to find the investment or choose the investment, but it's not you, the individual, that's buying it. It's your IRA. So if you're buying gold or you've got a contract to buy anything, make sure that the buyer on the contract reads NuView Trust Company for the benefit of your name and account number. We walk you through this process as well. So you don't have to remember all this or memorize this today, but I just want to give you guys just a kind of airplane view of how it works. Once you find the investment and you've got everything vested correctly, you fill out a NuView purchase packet, which is a really easy form. You send that and the contract to us. We sign the documents, and then we send the funds directly to the seller or to the title company, whatever it is that you're investing in. We don't hand you the money because that would be a distribution. All the money goes in and out of the IRA. We take your direction and we send the money directly to where the recipient needs it. One extra step, if you're holding physical gold, physical bullion, physical metals of any kind, you cannot hold the metals at your house. And I don't have enough desk space underneath to hold your metals for you here at the office. So you have to find a third-party depository that stores your metals. That's just one extra step that you have with metals. Be very cautious of the companies out there that have told people that they can store their IRA gold at home, because people got hit hard on that. Anything that's owned in your IRA cannot be held personally by you. That's a distribution if you take constructive receipt of your IRA's assets. So you have to find a third-party depository to hold your gold or silver or metals. And all of the profit then from that point on is completely tax deferred or tax free. So that's one of the great things about holding these types of assets in an IRA, the tax benefits and the fact that it's tangible and the fact that we've got Chris Blasi, who's an expert that's going to talk a lot more about precious metals today and beyond. So Chris, are you with me?
Nate, great to be on your show today. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for spending some time with us. Got a really great recommendation. Me and Chris had a really great call. He's had decades of experience in the industry. There's no better person to have on here. He's the CEO of Neptune. They do precious metals. They do cryptocurrency. They've got a really, really nice, attractive website with all sorts of information. And I'm really excited to have you on today. And tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what are we going to learn today?
I will kick off with my presentation, but I just want to jump in one thing, because as you explained to the listeners about having to find a depository, when someone works with us, we work, it's really a turnkey experience. We work directly with COMEX, NYMEX, fully insured bullion depositories. So that burden doesn't go on to the customer. So should they ever choose to work with us, it becomes turnkey and very seamless. But that said, if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen. And
take it away.
Just want to make sure, are you seeing my slides?
I am, yep.
Okay, so my name is Chris Blasi. I'm the founder and CEO of Neptune Global Holdings, or also known as Neptune GBX. I'm going to present some information about precious metals. It sounds like it may be a very new asset class under consideration by a lot of the listeners. So we're going to kind of talk about the basics of why. I've been in this business for obviously more than 2 decades. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, which I don't think has served investors well. And hopefully I will help a lot of folks to get a better, clearer picture about precious metals and why they've been part of sophisticated portfolios for basically forever. And that has never changed, regardless of what anyone may have heard in what we call the mainstream financial media. Again, a little bit about the company first. We've been around for 20 years. We're a full service precious metals dealer. We trade in all the traditional and globally accepted bullion, bars, and coins. We also have a trading platform with some products that actually have patents on them. And that is something that has really differentiated us from a lot of our competitors. We're also a member of a group called the DTCC, Depository Trust Clearing Corp. And that's just to give you a sense of where we are. We're the only firm in our industry who is a member of that. And just, other members within that group are Fidelity, Schwab, and a lot of the major financial services firms and clearing brokers. I list a number of media outlets. I'm showing you their icons that we've been brought on as subject matter experts throughout the years with these on these, and our opinions and our thoughts have been shown on Barron's and Market Watch, the Wall Street Journal. I actually have one even later today at 3 o'clock. So we're very well enmeshed and hopefully have a good experience that we can share and let our clients benefit from. So now on the highest level, really precious metals, why should they be in a portfolio? And I'm going to show you a little later in the presentation where we really are in the metals and what they've done for all these years, even though they've been off most people's radar screens. But recently it's coming into people's focus, right? Even before this incident and with the Ukraine, that markets were becoming unstable, right? That this country has a debt-based economic model. The debts are becoming unsustainable. And therefore, people are looking to alternatives for a lot of the assets that have benefited in our debt-based system as a way to hedge or have positions in the portfolio that will perform should the stock market and the bond market start to underperform, which they have been since the start of this year. So the markets are volatile, but it looks to me, and this is just my opinion, that the stock market is volatile. It has big up days, but it's been down since the start of the year. And just so you know, the metals have been up, and that's all even prior to what's happened in the Ukraine. So this flight to safety, people looking for forms of wealth preservation, historically, gold and precious metals have always served as ideal instruments assets for the flight to safety and the wealth preservation move. And that's because people are seeing kind of a breakdown in the geopolitical order. We are now facing inflation. You'll hear that arguments from economic commentators, are we in inflation or deflation or stagflation? Just so you know, even in deflation, gold will outperform. And if your question is how could that be? That's when you look at an asset, it's how does its value hold up on for purchasing power. So in deflation, all assets collapse in value, but gold will go down much less than other assets. So it maintains a better purchasing power than basically like stocks, which then need to be converted into dollars and such. But we are now in an inflation stagflationary environment. And historically, this is very good for gold. And ever since the Fed had to admit that inflation is not transitory, more people are realizing that the flight to precious metals are mandatory or should be considered, and the metals are doing well. Inflation is just another word for devaluing of your currency, right? So the US dollar has been devaluing for decades, and it's just kind of devaluing at a more accelerated pace right now. What you're seeing, if you are following what's going on in the world with the sanctions in Russia, there's a bigger picture. It is showing that the US is willing to use systems that were supposed to be neutral, like the SWIFT system, you know that for doing bank wires, and other systems that are not neutral anymore. And what that's doing is it's showing the rest of the world that they can be victims if they fall out of the US's grace. And that really means mostly China and Russia. So what's happening is, if you're following the news, China and Russia are now dealing more directly, not using the US dollar as a medium of exchange. And I bring that up because the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. But what's happening right now is diminishing the dollar, right? India is a big trader with Russia, and now they're doing direct trading and not using US dollars. If you're asking yourself, why do I bring this up? This is critical for gold. Gold is the ultimate form of money. And as people lose faith in the dollar, they will take the dollar will diminish in value, and the value of hard assets like gold and precious metals will go up. So this has been forecast as going to happen for many years. It is now happening in real time. So I think the timing of this meeting is ideal. So you're seeing this, breakdown in our systems. You're seeing it in real time in the supply chains breaking down. So when things that everyone have been comfortable and relied upon start to break down, this is when something like gold really shines. And it's ideal for an investment in an IRA, and we'll get into some of those characteristics. So here's a couple more reasons why you should consider gold in a modern portfolio. Gold has been a store of value and a form of wealth for 5,000 years, ever since there's been recorded history. There's really no other asset that can say that. Now, real estate is also, it's always been valuable, but there are characteristics of gold that complement real estate, which you will see makes it ideal for someone who's a real estate investor, because they both have characteristics that where one is maybe not bringing as much benefit to the investor, the other one does. So we'll talk about some of those in a few minutes. Gold and precious metals have been a key portfolio component. They always have, and they always will be. And when Nate talked about diversification before, most people make the mistake of thinking, I have all my money in the stock market, so I bought large cap stocks and small cap stocks, I'm diversified. That's not diversification. When the stock market goes down, they all go down, large cap, small cap, mid cap, right? Real estate, when you actually own the real estate and the way people own it in these self-directed IRAs, that's diversification outside of exchange traded products. Well, physical precious metals, like you can hold in an IRA offered by NuView, is true diversification. You're going to actually own an asset. It's not going to be wrapped in a secure, it's not going to be securitized. So you're eliminating that counterparty risk, and it's not going to be subject to problems with an exchange. This is happening in the world. I mean, in 2000, when we had the World Trade Center bombing, the exchanges closed down for a couple of days. Yes, they opened up. I mean, in Russia right now, their exchanges have been closed for 2 weeks. So anything tied to an exchange is hostage. And there is a lot of US investors that own Russian stock, either directly or through mute ETFs, and those are now illiquid, right? So gold sits out. That's another way of diversifying, not only diversifying the actual asset, but even where the asset resides. Gold is still acknowledged as the ultimate form of money by central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and that is not a small issue. So just think about it, regardless of what the central banks have said in the past to try to dissuade individuals from owning gold, like it's a barbaric relic and such, they never let go of their gold. And as a matter of fact, central banks for the last 15 years have been net buyers of gold. So that should tell you something, what they were preparing and what they've been preparing for. And just, you know, China and Russia in the last 10 years have been the biggest buyers of gold. They knew full well that there were going to be the problems that are happening right now. So they're preparing. I believe individuals should take the same advantage of the situation and prepare accordingly. So make no mistake, we have visibility. We deal with ultra high net worth investors, hedge funds, family offices. They have been acquiring physical gold for the last 10 years and especially the last 2 to 3 years. So just keep that in mind. Your typical financial advisor, unfortunately, wealth manager, RIA, isn't recommending precious metals because the firms they work for want them to sell stocks and bonds. That's just the reality. I came from that world many years ago. They reluctantly created ETFs, gold ETFs, years ago for the customers that kept badgering them because before 2006, before GLD and SLV were created, customer would pull their money from their Wall Street firm to buy the gold. So Wall Street came up with ETFs. Just, you know, an ETF, and they're not all created equal, but the biggest ones like GLD and SLV, the reason they have a 40 to 50 page prospectus is all the risks you have by participating in the gold market with them. I won't go into the details, but that is not gold ownership. And it's, in our opinion, you're doing yourself a disservice if you take what I would consider the easy way out, but assume all the risk of an exchange traded product and all the nuances in there about how they're not to be held liable if the market moves against them and it adversely hurts you. That does not happen when you own the actual physical asset. So there's 4 primary precious metals: gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. And they don't move in lockstep. And the reason they don't move in lockstep is they have different drivers and are viewed differently in the market. So just as a high level, gold is a monetary metal. That means it's a form of money and always has been. And that generally moves in correlation or negatively correlated with the currencies of the world. Silver is a quasi-monetary metal and industrial metal. And I would actually say it's more of an industrial metal, at least now, because it's highly used in electronics and solar panels and a lot of items. And its drivers are going to be more supply-demand issues for the industrial use of it. But silver has always been considered also monetary metal. Central banks don't hold it as a reserve asset, but it's been used as money or a form of money, obviously, throughout history. Platinum, you may know platinum's used in jewelry, but it's primarily an industrial metal, as is palladium. So because of that, they're still real hard assets. They're still tangible. They can still be held in a portfolio in a self-directed IRA, but they move differently. They'll generally all move in the same trend together, but they will move at different times. So here's important characteristics that are exclusive to precious metals and in the physical form. If you're ever going to participate in precious metals and futures or options or ETFs, these benefits really aren't going to be captured and realized by yourself. So first of all, when you own physical metals in the actual physical form, there's no counterparty risk. And what that means is no one has to perform or do anything for that asset to be what it is. So what does that mean? Example of counterparty risk. If you buy a bond, the bond is only good if the person pays the interest on it and pays the principal. If they fail to perform, the bond becomes worthless. If you buy stock in a company and that company fails to remain competitive or doesn't run their business well or is corrupt or crooked, that stock goes down. So therefore, you're relying on people to perform for that company to stay viable and therefore the stock retain value. Those are forms of counterparty risk. So even in real estate, you can own the real estate, but if if it's an income producing property, there's the counterparty risk that the tenant is not going to pay, which would not, the property would still be there, but it will be dinged and hurt as far as, at least temporarily, what you bought it for. And also there's counterparty risk with things like zoning changes or local government changes, and also local taxation that the owner has no power over. So you're kind of subject and stuck with that. But when you own the actual physical metal, it has no counterparty risk. It is what it is, and the price just changes on the global market based on how the world values it. But no one has to do anything for it to remain as it is. Gold and precious metals have exceptional liquidity, right? When clients buy and sell through us, it's done in real time. And that's, people I really believe are going to get a real appreciation for liquidity risk going forward. Couple good examples. I don't know if anyone follows what happens in the commodities market, but one of the biggest commodity exchange in London, London Metal Exchange, had a default the other day where a person bought was a short position in nickel, lost $8 billion. It froze the whole market. They had to shut the market down, and they didn't tell us what happened, but somehow they're bailing it out. Those are losses. There's an example of whoever bought that contract on the long side, who thought they owned nickel, but the guy who owned it on the short side didn't pay. That's counterparty risk. So they may net nothing out of it. If you actually owned the nickel, you wouldn't have the problem. Gold and precious metals are divisible and transportable, right? This is a good counter or a good hedge to a real estate portfolio. Real estate is not divisible. You buy a piece of property and that building is worth $500,000. You buy $500,000 of gold or silver. You can piece that off in very small increments, which is great for either adding to or slowly cashing out of a position. And it's also transportable. Real estate is local and can't be moved. Gold and precious metals can be moved geographically anywhere you want. It can be transported anywhere in the world. That's why it always has served as a very good form of wealth for families, and it's very intergenerational, visible and transportable. Precious metals are much more private. Now, IRAs are a little bit different, but for non-IRAs, when a client buys precious metals, there's no reporting. Doesn't matter the size of the purchase. You can buy $10 million in gold or silver, platinum, palladium. By law, it is not a reportable transaction. Reportable transactions are only when it's sold back to the dealer and it has to meet certain thresholds. Next, it's diversified from its transaction domains. As I said, you don't have to rely on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ or any other exchange of the world to make your gold transactional, right? It can be done privately, person to person. The dealers, we do not have to log into a particular exchange in order to buy or sell precious metals to a client. That's a mitigation of what they call exchange risks. And I believe people have grown very comfortable believing the exchanges will never fail them. But I think what we're seeing now in the world, people are realizing, and it's opening their eyes to different risks, and one of them is exchange risk. Again, gold will perform in inflationary and deflationary environments for the benefit of the holder. It's real and it's tangible, which as real estate investors, I know you appreciate a real tangible investment, and it has never gone to zero in 5,000 years. So real quickly, counterparty risk. Do stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds have counterparty risk? Yes, right? They're exchange traded products, they're securitized products. Do bonds and notes and fixed income funds have that risk? Yes, because the person on the other side may fail to perform and default. Real estate and REITs do have risks, as we mentioned before, because of what local governments can do through either law or taxation. Those are risks. Mining shares, some people say, well, I'm going to buy a mining share as opposed to buying gold. Well, that's an operating company. And I've seen in the past, like in countries like Venezuela, where they nationalize the mines and therefore the owners are wiped out. Also, they may fail as an operating company, or they may not have a good grade of ore. And there's a whole host of other issues that make them operating companies that it's a play toward gold, but it's not the same as gold. Gold and silver ETFs and other forms of derivatives, yes, have counterparty risk. But when you have the physical precious metal, the way we transact in it, you don't. Now, here's just something to dispel some myths. If you talk to or you listen to anyone in the financial media, and what was a great performing asset and where should all investors have been for the last 20 years? Well, of course, what's the answer? The stock market. Now, up in the right-hand corner, I put MOPE, Management of Perspective Economics. The media is always trying to manage your view of things and what is really transpiring. This is a real-time return of gold versus the Dow Jones for exactly the last 20 years. So imagine if you just bought an index fund for the Dow, and just so you know, it's not any different for the S&P, only by a couple points versus the Dow. If you just bought gold in 2002 when we started our firm, and I can attest that our first transaction with gold was at $318 an ounce, your return as of several days ago was over 500%, just buy and hold for gold. With all the cheerleading, all the propaganda, all the forced money going in, I mean forced money through 401ks at your business, at companies, the stock market, the Dow, is up a little over 200%. I guarantee you none of you heard that from the mainstream financial media, because it's not in Wall Street's interest to promote something like gold. It promotes stocks and bonds. So unfortunately, individuals have to do their homework like you're doing today to find these assets to put in your portfolio. So just so you know, we're going to talk a little bit about gold performance, and I don't want to harp on charts, but when I started the company, and this is just my opinion, I did it because I was convinced that gold was going to go into a secular bull market. Secular bull markets generally run 25 plus years, and they have 3 legs to them. The first leg is up, big move up. Second leg is a multi-year consolidation period where approximately 50% of the first gains are given back. And then the third leg is the last and most robust. So here's something I did in a presentation back in 2015. And as I pointed out to the audience, I said, leg one, we already experienced, right, from around 2002 to 2011, 12, gold versus silver was off by a different couple months. It peaked at that time and then entered its leg two, which was going to be a multi-year consolidation down. At the time, I said it was still probably in the down phase because you can see that green 50% retracement line. And that the exact 50% retracement was at 1,060 an ounce. But I said to the audience, look, I really believe we're in a textbook secular bull market, and I think we're getting close to the bottom. Again, I just went to another slide if you didn't notice, and I said at the time, in the future, we would hit that third leg and we would start our big move up. So just let me, okay, I hope you can all see that. Now, here was something from June 2020, 5 years later. Where's that third leg? That third leg, it did hit 1060 an ounce. I mean, this is a textbook bull market. And then 3 years later, it was at 1,500 an ounce. Now you may say, oh, did I miss it? Well, no, the third legs are the largest and most robust and far exceeds the heights of the first peak at the end of leg one. I believe we are just in that right now. And I'll just say another thing, and just not to dwell on charts, but charts, the most bullish of all chart patterns is called the cup and handle. So this third leg is tracing out a perfect cup and handle. What that means is you can see that yellow outline of like the cup, and then to the right of that, the handle. When this was done, gold was at 1,800 an ounce. Gold is at 1,900 and change right now. So basically, it is performing ideally. And I would say I look at charts as a confirmation of what the fundamentals are telling me. And the fundamentals told me way back in 2002 that gold and precious metals were going on a secular bull market. And the charts have validated all along. So from my personal perspective, with a 20-year track record of being right on the money, I'm very comfortable. And I believe that it's still going to serve investors very well for the years to come. And as we look at what's transpiring in the world, I think, that's only building the bullish case for the precious metals. I just put here silver here. Silver generally lags gold. So it is also in its third leg, but it's a little bit behind it, and that's its normal performance. Platinum and palladium are different. We won't go into their details, but they're also performing quite well. But I will refer to them from the sense of precious metals. We always talk about diversification. So even in the stock market, if you put, say, a certain amount of your money in the stock market, it would be prudent to put it in more than just one stock. Well, the precious metals move at different times. So there is actually an index called the PMC index, which is the precious metals composite, which gives a snapshot of how the metals are moving in real time with this diversified, logically weighted portfolio, much like the S&P 500 is an index fund. So this is the PMC ounce. There's actually an investable product called the PMC ounce, which is comprised of physical metal to be exactly like the PMC index. And just to show you, the point of it is to give a better risk-adjusted return. And like all diversified investments, a better risk-adjusted return smooths out the volatility. It doesn't mean necessarily giving a better total return. So from this chart, you can see the red line is the PMC ounce. And as this chart was printed as of March 4th of this year, the PMC ounce was up 208% from its inception, which was December of 2008. Silver was up 148%, gold was up 208%, and platinum was up only 31%. So you say, how did gold outperform? Well, there's another metal in the PMC ounce called palladium. It's not showing on the chart. Its returns have been, tremendous. It's not a metal that people generally buy on their own, but the PMC ounce makes it very easy to have a position in palladium. And I'm showing this because this shows that even diversification within the metals has its value, because clients will sometimes say, I understand, should I buy gold? Should I buy silver? What should I do? This is just one very easy turnkey way to say, here's a diversified position, and it's designed, and it has been providing a better risk-adjusted return. And just for anyone who follows some of the well-known commentators on currency, the markets, and precious metals, one guy by the name of Jim Rickards, very well known. He's been a New York Times bestseller with about 4 books. He discovered the PMC ounce many years ago, have recommended it in his books and his newsletter, and basically made this comment. This is a excerpt from what he said, but I'll summarize with the last line, that the PMC ounce is the most intelligent innovation in precious metals investing ever devised. So we're quite thankful for that, and no, he's not related to me. I show you this because if you're getting interested in the metals, for free, we make an app available to people so they can look at the market and see what's happening. It shows the PMC index, which is the diversified index, gold, silver, platinum, palladium. And as Nate mentioned earlier, our app will also show you the top cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, because I know a lot of individuals are interested in the cryptos. We actually do not transact cryptos, but we just provide data in our app for the cryptocurrencies because it's something that a lot of investors are interested in. But we can kind of open it up for questions right now. Nate?
Great presentation, Chris. I had a question for some of our viewers who they haven't invested in precious metals yet, but they're always looking for new opportunities to diversify. That's obviously kind of an inherent trait with a self-directed IRA investor. What would be some tips or some advice to someone who hasn't invested in precious metals? What direction should they take? Should they go and look at the website and get some education? What would you tell somebody that's just starting out?
Sure. So a couple things. People will say, okay, I get it, but which one should I buy? They'll go to a site and they'll see those metals in all different forms, bars, coins, different sizes. So that I encourage, we have specialists that be happy to walk people through. Always invite them to visit our website. So we have some data sheets for especially some of the flagship products like the gold and silver vault accounts or the PMC ounce, but there's a lot of general information there. Again, they could reach out to us through email, through a contact page. Feel free to speak to any of our specialists. It can seem overwhelming, and there's also things out there that there are some dealers, unfortunately, try to are not upfront about, things like numismatic coins and semi-numismatic coins, which aren't bullion investing. And for people who aren't in the know, kind of go down the path they really didn't mean to go. We never go there. And just so self-directed IRA clients know that you cannot have semi-numismatics, numismatics, and those sort of coins in a self-directed IRA. As Nate mentioned in the beginning, they fall under the IRS's purview of definition of a collectible. So we do not deal in any products like that. But we'd be very happy to help folks navigate. It's not that difficult once you get someone will give you a nice straightforward answer on, what your options are and what makes the most sense for the vehicle and what your needs are and requirements are.
Well, I'll say this, and again, I just remind people I'm not endorsing any investment or anybody, but I'll just tell you straight, Chris, that your guys' website is phenomenal with the education. It's really clear, it's really concise. You guys have been working with self-directed IRA investors for decades, so that really says something. You guys just had your 20th birthday anniversary, is that right?
Yep, 20 years. So
20 years. Yeah. So I would encourage people to go to the website. I was intrigued by the website. I learned a lot. And I like that you guys have a one-stop shop turnkey where you offer the storage for clients as well. That's one of the things I would say, in my experience, seeing clients that do invest in precious metals is when you have too many people involved and you've got brokers selling the metals and then you've got separate depositories and there's just so many people involved, it can get a much of a headache. So I think that you guys have set it up in a great way that would make it easy for self-directed IRA investors to take the opportunity of investing in precious metals, physical precious metals. I do want to answer a question that came in, and this is a great question. Current client, let's see, going to go back here. Lawrence, what's going on, Lawrence? Lawrence is a client of ours. He says that NuView requires that bullion investors use certain depositories. I'm paraphrasing here, certain depositories instead of a depository of your own choosing. Yeah, and that's not an IRA, that's not an IRS requirement. We have a few depositories that I would say we like to work with, only because for a custodian like us, we have to have the ability to have a master account and be able to get reporting and values from the depository. So we do have some ones that we suggest, but if you had one that you wanted to use, we can look at that and make sure that we can have all the access, to get values and things like that. And I'm sure, Chris has that ability as well. So if you have one, just send it our way. Just make sure it's not, Leon's Discount Storage or something like that. Make sure it's a reputable company, and we'll look at it before we, have that stored there. So great question. Let's see.
Nate, if I could just even add to that.
Yeah.
So, having been in this business 20 years, and I've worked with all the major depositories, and I've seen where the horror stories that have happened with some individuals, you never want to really, my opinion, you do not want to work with a dealer who's his own depository. You're not going to have the checks and balances that you want, right? Because and there's only been a couple horror stories, but it always involved a dealer who was his own depository. So we work, again, we are not the depository, and the ones that we work with are the major COMEX, NYMEX approved, audited, and fully insured. Same with the folks that NuView would recommend you go to. And our experience is that's the way to go. And kind of just stick with that. You're going to get the service, you're going to get the reporting and the visibility that everyone will feel comfortable with. So
awesome. We got a couple other questions here. Do you have an opinion on this? Jody Hill, thanks for joining. Jody asked, how do stocks in gold mining, or how do stocks perform in gold mining companies? Any opinion on that as far as gold mining companies? Is that a good business to be in?
Sure. So this is just my opinion, right? We're going to be clear on that. And I'm not an equity analyst, but the main thing to take away is that mining companies are operating businesses. Now, granted, the asset in the ground is the gold, but it's very important to know they perform differently. Now, an equity strategy analyst will say, well, if gold goes up a lot in price, the mine is a leverage play to gold, right? Because they acquired the land, and when they bought the land, there's so many ounces and now they became more valuable. And that is true. But that is also countered with the problems that operating companies have. And those are not infrequent. So just my personal opinion, it's not a substitute for the physical metal. That would be something that would be in your equity portfolio. And do your research, and this is definitely a personal opinion. If you go into a mining entity, you have what they call I'm not going to use the names, but there's the large established enterprises. And then there's the ones that go for the other end, exploratory. I personally think individuals, if you're going to go in mining, should be with the large established firms versus the very speculative exploratory companies. And maybe in that case, probably a mutual fund where at least they diversified out, maybe your best bet. Again, that's just my opinion. But
yeah, and I'm with you on that. And again, we're not here giving investment advice, but I think you nailed it right in the head. That's what I was thinking. I mean, a company is a company, even if it's in an industry that's handling hard assets, precious metals, it's still a company. It's got employees. The company can go out of business. They can mismanage their expenses and debts and all sorts of things that doesn't really have anything to do with the actual physical metals itself. So, but there's nothing wrong with doing both. Again, this self-directed IRAs allow you to invest in some tangible hard assets, and you can still invest into some companies that are doing the same thing. We actually have a lot of clients that diversify in cryptocurrency. They'll have some actual coins that are owned in the name of the IRA through some of the platforms that we use, but they also invest into startup companies that are working on the infrastructure for cryptocurrency. So that's an example. So I would say you can use the same strategy in precious metals if you were interested in it. Will, thanks for joining us, Will. Looks like you're an equity trust client. Thanks for joining us on our program here. It says if we currently have a small amount of precious metals with another institution, equity trust, for example, is there a process to change ownership? Yada, yada, yada. Yes, there is a process. We make it pretty smooth and painless. Basically, anything owned in your self-directed IRA at another company, all we have to do is just get an IRA established here at NuView, send a transfer form to that custodian. And the only different piece of transferring assets in kind, it's different than cash. We have to get things retitled in the name of the IRA. So however you have the ownership shown at Equity Trust, we just need to have an assignment of ownership to your NuView IRAs. And if you want to do that, email us at iraspecialist@nuviewtrust.com. I'll actually pull that slide up now. Grace, if you don't mind. GS Wang, can I store my metals in Singapore with my self-directed IRA? I don't know if we're going to get that one approved, but there's nothing with your IRA. There's no rules about where you invest. The biggest thing, though, again, with precious metals especially, is you have to be very careful as to having constructive receipt of the metal. So that would be my one question, is if you are living in Singapore, are you actually storing it at a reputable depository, or is it stored, under your, you don't want to get into something to where you have constructive receipt of the IRA's assets, because the IRS is not friendly to you. If they find that you've taken possession of your IRA's assets, they can distribute all those assets to you, or even worse, they can say it's prohibited transaction, which comes with some fines and penalties. So I would just say, if you play by the rules and do it correctly, there's a lot of advantages to having an IRA own tangible assets. Again, the tax benefits are tremendous. Working with a company like Chris and Neptune, obviously they make the process smooth and painless. If you guys came to our event, our investor retreat, we're planning the next one, and I really hope to see Chris and his team out there at the NuView event coming up in what, Grace? August-ish. Yeah, we're planning for August, beginning of August, but we anticipate about 500 people at that event. So it's going to be a great event. And again, if you guys want to watch the replay of this, it's going to be on our Facebook page. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. We're doing a lot. We're doing a new website as well. So we're going to have a new education resource page that's going to look nice and sweet. But I wanted to make sure, and I want to tell you guys this real quick. This topic was not originally on the schedule. I wanted to get it on the schedule though, because I've seen on our back end clients gravitating towards precious metals. And it's not something that we often get a chance to talk about, but with what's going on out there in the world, it's definitely something that we want to talk about and bring you guys in. Coincidentally, Chris just kind of showed up and at the right time. And I said, we got to get you on the program. So Chris, I really appreciate you doing that. I mean, you only had about 2 weeks notice or something like that, and you're ready to rock and roll. And I think clients got a lot of value out of this.
I appreciate Nate, and I look forward to the opportunity of working with your clients and helping them out and helping them navigate this asset class.
Yeah, and just for the viewers, again, can you tell them best place to reach you or where to go if they want have follow-up questions for you?
Sure. NeptuneGlobal.com. That is a great place to start. Our phone numbers are there. You can call us and you'll get picked up and you'll go right through to a bullion specialist. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Again, there's contact pages there that you can submit questions via the contact page. And the website does have a lot of educational information on it, but there's a lot to it. And we're anxious and love to help anyone out, help them really, we believe really properly and fully diversify their portfolio. So again, NeptuneGlobal.com. And it was great to be on your show, and hopefully I could be on again as the metals gain more and more traction with individual investors.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people seeking you guys out because we're having a lot of people that are coming, new clients for us. So we might have mutual clients as more people gravitate towards some more, I would say, stable investments and things that stand the test of time. So if you are new or you want to set up a self-directed IRA to start investing in precious metals or other alternative assets, just reach out to my IRA specialist team. You get a hold of all of us at the same time at IRA specialists with an S at NuViewTrust.com. You should usually get an answer within 15 minutes. It goes to myself and my team of IRA specialists. We can give you a free consultation, talk about the tax advantages of all these wonderful accounts that we have here, and talk about the process of whatever you're investing in. And don't forget to follow us on socials. We do a lot to try to get as much education out there as possible through our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, our Instagram, and our LinkedIn. And we do have a special promo as well. If you're interested in setting up an account or accounts for you, family, friends, kids, whoever, we're doing a promo. We're going mad in March. So $50 off your account opening fee. So basically you can open the account for nothing up front. And we'll even give you a $50 fee credit towards future fees. Remember, we just keep the lights on by having small transaction fees and asset fees. We don't make money on commissions. We just make money on just small processing fees. And we're going to give you even a credit towards that. So really, it's very, very inexpensive to get started through self-direction. And if you want to move your assets from another company, again, reach out to us at IRA specialists at NuViewTrust.com. Again, thank you, Chris. Any final last words to the audience out there?
No, look, the markets all the markets are volatile right now, but it's just in my opinion, and I think maybe some of the hopefully you see from some of the charts and the performance that the trend for the metals are up, and I believe the next several years are going to be very good for them. That's our opinion. And again, just thanks for coming on today, everyone, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable reaching out to us with any questions you have about precious metals.
Awesome. Thanks again, Chris. And thank you everybody for attending our Wednesday workshop. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.